Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Most Important Conversations Daily Meditations, which we host Monday through Friday. Each meditation is based on the broad theme of liberation and liberating ourselves from our conditioning, liberating ourselves from a life that we are living by default, and creating the context in which we can create a life by design. The talks that begin each meditation each morning are derived from our broader body of work called Whole Life Architecture, which is a community-centric, alive community-centric approach to people being liberated from their conditioning to create a life by design, and doing it and journeying together so that there is support along the way. These meditations are intended to create an opening. And so in the broad theme and topic of liberation, we have been talking about for a couple of weeks now, and we're going to start moving on from this topic, but just to finish what we started last week, we started talking about projection and how projection is a natural human experience of projecting yourself out into the world. But the source of why we do this is because of the uncertainty that we are experiencing about ourselves within. See, we're always doing this dance of between the world without and the world within, the world of effects and the world of causation, which is the world within. We don't often realize and relate to ourselves as being at cause of something. We often relate to ourselves in our life as though the cause of things that are affecting our life are external to us. In other words, we are in a perpetual reaction to what's happening outside of us. And there are lots of things that happen outside of us. In fact, much of the world outside of us, the world of effects, the world out there, is outside of our control. But what we do have control over is our response to it. And our responses, in turn, reify and recreate new experiences out there that we then interact with. So we are not totally objective to our experience in the world without. There is a subjective element, and one of the ways that we engage in the objective and make it subjective is through projection. That by projecting ourselves out into the world, into circumstances, it becomes a way to try to engage with and to manipulate and to control ourselves as sort of like a thought object out into the world. If who we are is something we can act on outside of ourselves in the world, as opposed to be with on the inside, transform from the inside, address on the inside, which makes things a lot easier, because once something's out into the world and you're acting on it, it almost takes on a life of its own, and it starts to have you. It starts to impact you. It starts to control you. But because we are in this state of uncertainty about ourselves, we project out into the world. And then the world reflects that uncertainty back at us. And these reflections begin to torment and haunt us. Suddenly we have to deal with the world of effects that our projection created. And oftentimes we disconnect from the fact that we even did this, because sometimes when we project out into the world, there's an enormous time drag between when we project it out into the world and when the world of effects shows our projection, reflects our projection back at us. In some cases, this could even be years. Years ago, you projected something out into the world, and it's just now coming back and showing up. And so It makes it difficult. You can't connect the dots. Why is this happening to me? The difference when we liberate ourselves from our conditioning and we're no longer needing to find ourselves in the world because we find ourselves within, we create ourselves within. The difference is that we slowly but surely begin to extricate ourselves from a state of fear. Fear comes from uncertainty, and what's happening when we're projecting out into the world is we're in reaction to fear, and we're trying to assuage the uncertainty. And because our relationship is to the world without, to the world of effects, that's the real world, as we call it, as though our inner world is not the real world. Because we're only interested in working on the so-called real world of effects, and so we're acting on that, and then we're projecting onto it, and it's like a boomerang. It's coming back on us over a certain amount of time, but it's because of fear that we do this. Fear comes from uncertainty, and having an inner world of unknown, of uncertainty, is terrifying to us. So we're this constant projection to the outer world, because at least we feel, and this isn't rational, by the way, we're not really actively thinking about this. It's sort of the trap of our conditioning that we fall into, that we've observed from our friends, family, and community. This is how they do the world. This is how they do life. So we've just emulated it, and we've never known anything different. But when we project out into the world without having first connected to and become a powerful creator of our life, understanding the responsibility we have as a creator, understanding the power that comes with and that it entails, we project onto the outer world because it fills the space. We're terrified to be with the space of the unknown, and so we fill it. We fill it with our projections, and now it becomes or occurs to us as real, even though we have to deal with all kinds of blowback and boomerang reflections back at ourselves from the world that we've created in the world without. We have to deal with all of this over time. And so this fear thing is really at the heart of why we are focused on the world without and not the world within. Because the fear of being with ourselves, the fear of experiencing the no-thingness inside ourselves, which is where all creation comes from. Creation comes from nothing. You have to get to nothing. You have to have a blank canvas to create, a blank page. And so it seems easier for us to just fill the space up in the world with our ideas, with our thoughts, with our actions, with our responsibilities, with our busyness, with our obligations, with our anxiety. Do you know that people would rather live an anxious day than have a day of nothing? You think, no, I don't think that's true. I think people would love to sit down and have a day where they have, I don't mean doing nothing. I mean experiencing the emptiness of yourself within. I mean being with yourself at the most vulnerable level, facing yourself. People would rather fill that day with all kinds of busy making anxiety, things that we can control. It reminds me of what psychologists share about the nature of shame, the pseudo emotion of shame, which is shame is where you're making yourself wrong and responsible for things that were outside of your control. And the reason we do that is so that we can feel like we're still in control. Because to be with the emptiness of the unknown, of the reality of the world, makes us out of control. It's an unknown. And we can't be with an unknown world. So we fill it with, in this case, we make ourselves responsible and we shame ourselves for things that occurred that were outside of our control. We do the same thing. It may not occur as shame, but it's energetically the same thing when we're filling the space in the outer world so that we can be preoccupied and busy and not have to face the emptiness, the no thingness, the possibility of being a creator in our world within. And we do this through projection. So it's funny because we don't want to deal with ourself in the world within, so we project versions of ourself into the outer world. And then that becomes the thought object or the thing that we're interacting with. We're interacting with other people, interacting with who we've put out into the world, but we've not taken responsibility for who we've put out into the world. Because that person that others are in reaction to was also in reaction to others and other things. And so it becomes very messy and noisy. Those who are able to be with themselves, with the unknown of themselves, with the nothingness of themselves. All of us were born a tabula rasa. The Buddhist monks ask, who were you when you were born? My answer to that is, we were all a tabula rasa. And yes, we had an inner essence, a nature that was unique to ourselves, but we were also a blank slate upon which the world wrote its expectations, wrote its rules, wrote its conditions for how we would be accepted and under what premise, under what conditions. Consider the word condition. Under what conditions are you accepted into this world? And under what conditions are you rejected? And we learn very quickly that if I project myself in alignment with those conditions, I get rewarded. If I project myself out of alignment with the conditions, I get ostracized. So the self we're projecting in most cases is not our self. It is a conditioned self. It is a self that has been highly curated, usually by our unconscious mind, to get approval and to fit in. And all that does is exacerbate the chasm, the abyss of our inner world of no thingness, and the fear of that becomes stronger over time. As we age, the fear of facing the nothingness, the possibility of our true self, becomes terrifying. We've gotten so good at the game of conditioning, the game of under what conditions will I succeed? Will I win? Will I be approved? Will I be loved? Will I be seen? Under what conditions will people pay attention to me? We live in the attention economy. Sadly, we live in the attention economy. And so projection's whole essence stems from fear. Fear from the uncertainty. But the antidote to it is self-trust. And the only way that we can access self-trust is through liberation. We have to liberate ourselves from the under what conditions scenario. The under what conditions will you be accepted, loved, heard, seen. This is a never-ending a never-ending problem for us. It will never end. When you step into the world of conditioning, there will always be more conditions you have to meet, always be different ways you have to contort and twist yourself, always be different ways you will have to show up in order to please others. And they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they're engaging you this way, expecting this of you, because they're also trapped in conditioning. So it's not about blame, but it's about realizing the loss of power you choose to stay in when you choose to stay in your conditioning and you don't liberate yourself. You're what we call in whole life architecture a walking unconscious habituated reaction to everything in your life. It's not even your life. It's a conditioned life. You didn't create that life by design. It's not yours at an essential level. You're living it, but it's the life of other people's conditions on you and the conditions of the society. And it all comes from the fear of being with the unknown of yourself, of stepping outside of your conditioning and no longer having all of that as a predictable framework for you to live your life. If it's predictable, it's not unknown, it's known. So this facing the unknown, being with uncertainty, requires trust of self. It's like our conditioning is the training wheels or a dinghy in the water when we're learning to ride a bike or swim. And I'm inviting you to let go of the dinghy and to take the training wheels of your conditioning off and be with the unknown of whether you can ride that bike or whether you can swim without some kind of support system. Being totally on your own. Which incidentally is why we created the whole life architecture model, is so you could journey with other people doing this as well. Playing with the unknown, being with it, and sharing the experience. Most people will never take their training wheels off, and they will never be able to ride as fast as they could, or most people will never lose the dinghy, and they will never be able to experience the freedom of the ocean because of the fear. And so they're trapped in projection. They're trapped in a recursive, conditioned film movie of their own making. And they don't realize they've made it, and that they don't recognize it as even being their own. They're just tolerating it because they've done a really good job fitting in to the under what conditions other people have laid out for them. So I invite you this morning as we move into our meditation to consider that. Under what conditions have you traded your liberty for, your creative power? How are you shrinking to fit into those conditions? How are you bending to fit into those conditions? And how is it stealing and robbing your soul of its vitality? I'm going to invite Mignon now to guide us into the neural sculpting meditation this morning.
Thank you, Chad. And hello, everyone. In today's practice, we'll gently shift a limiting belief or fear and embrace a new perception, one that better serves and supports you in creating space. And along the journey, I'll be offering cues and toggles and creative imagery. So you might hear me spell out words or dial up or down or invite playful or even bizarre imaginings, all intentionally designed to guide your experience using the 5-step neural sculpting meditation process. And this process, it helps to calm the nervous system. It primes the brain for creating supportive ideas and gives you agency in how you move through life. And I found that practicing the same meditation can be supportive in helping to reinforce desired outcomes and create lasting shifts over time. So I hope it serves you in a good way. So let's begin this meditation with an inhale and an exhale, a light stretching of the neck or relaxing the shoulders or rolling out the wrists, getting aware of the body supported in this particular moment by the surface beneath you. What points of contact do you notice between your body and the chair or the cushion or the ground? Inviting your awareness of how your bones and muscles would like to settle just a little bit more. Letting their weight sink down toward the ground, the way gravity invites you to stick to the earth, rooted. You might notice your breath enabling your body to settle into this moment. You can notice the inhale and exhale, the speed and the depth. What if you could follow that exhale far and long and soft out of the body so you could become aware of the next inhale, deep in, effortless out. This is your breath breathing itself, filling you and emptying you, inviting your body to do what it does best, to be right here, right now. You can lengthen that breath if you like. You can slow it down, spread it out as your body settles deeper, easier onto the ground. And what about your space in this particular moment supports your comfort? Is it the familiar room? Is it something else like a scent or a soft texture like a blanket or a pillow. Maybe you'd like to bring to mind a soothing memory or association to contribute to your comfort in this one and only moment. Your body is supported. Your breath is serving you. You are invited to stretch into your own playful mind. What if you could imagine being the wind? Would you arrive as a warm, gentle breeze or a frosty, playful gust? Maybe you'd move through the pines, creating a soft hush, or whistle your way around corners just for fun. What do you imagine it would feel like to be the wind moving freely through the air? Or maybe it's more bizarre to imagine being a teacup holding a warm liquid, being filled, being emptied, listening quietly to everyone who picks you up. This is your creative mind stretching into itself. This is your body breathing and settling. I would remind you the story belongs to you. A story that looks at a fear or challenge and invites you to embrace it from a different vantage point that might be in better alignment. If you could bring to mind a situation, emotion, or belief, something recent or ongoing that has caused discomfort, what comes up for you? Something like insecurity or LACK or something else. Are there colors, textures, or patterns that stand out to you in reference to this emotion or belief? Is it metal and spiky or dark and heavy? Maybe it's sticky. Perhaps there's a specific temperature, hot or clammy. You might even notice subtle or obvious sensations. Maybe there's a tightening in your throat, a coldness in your hands, or a pit in your stomach. It could be something else entirely. What do you notice if you imagine a sensation at all? And your breath is breathing and your body is settled. Your creative mind is stretching and can go wherever you want it to go. And because you are the creator of this story, you get to transform the discomfort, fear, or belief into something that serves you. So perhaps there's a word that best supports you at this moment. What comes to mind? A word like courage, courage, strength, or empowered. What does your creative mind notice when you give it permission to release discomfort? How amazing is it that you can stretch your imagination to create something that supports you in a better way? Because your breath is breathing and your body is right here, perhaps you notice a shift when you introduced this better way that is more supportive. What do you notice? If the colors were dark, maybe they shift to brighter hues. Or if the textures were metallic and spiky, maybe you imagine them being shaved down to a smooth silk. And if it was sticky or heavy, perhaps that dries up and shrinks to granules that blow away with your exhale. Or maybe you perceive something else entirely. Maybe you simply experience spaciousness. And if you perceive a shift or a new feeling, a sensation that is different from before, you are invited to mark that with your non dominant hand, where it will remind you tomorrow of the change you experienced today. Or you're welcome to make a gesture to remind you of this experience. And to remind yourself of this story, you're welcome to give it a word or phrase that commemorates this shift. Or perhaps a song comes to mind, one that captures the essence of this experience, a melody that can instantly bring you back to this moment, or maybe just a word. And with your motion, word, or song, you can return to the essence of this experience whenever it serves you and become more and more acquainted with shifting your perception and beliefs to those that more align with you. And you're welcome to continue exploring this experience for the remaining quiet moments and beyond. Embrace it and be well.
And welcome back, everybody. Reconnecting to the world without from the world within. And as we break for the day, the invitation is for you to just have that in the back of your mind, that inquiry: under what conditions am I trading my liberty, my liberation, my creative power? And is it worth the trade? Nietzsche said that there is no more powerful or important experience that a human being can have than to know themselves. To own themselves is what he actually said. To own themselves. If you are trapped in the conditioning, do you own yourself? Or does your conditioning own you? And all of the strings attached to it. So as you go about your day, just give some consideration to that. What parts of your day are created by you and what parts are conditioning? What interactions are created by you and which interactions are your conditioning? Which choices are authentically yours and which do you feel compelled to make because of your conditioning? Wishing you all a wonderful day today, and we will continue our meditations tomorrow, and we're going to be moving into a new subtopic under the